Let's get into it. Episode 648, Soul Not For Sale podcast. And we're talking about today Joe Rogan, Konstantin Kessin, Francis Foster. They're all talking about what happens when you incentivize people, the left mainly, incentivizing people to commit crimes by giving them no consequences, by enabling their behavior. You incentivize them to commit crimes. Now, we're also talking about in this clip, or I should say they're talking about what happens when you make police professional enemies. When you defund the police, when you demonize the police, what ends up happening in society? Now, I have two clips that I'm going to show you afterwards, or two stories that I'm going to show you afterwards. One is a very sad story where some people who are Marxists, some people who are anti-police, end up needing the police very badly, and one of them actually succumbs to their injuries. And then another one is a straight up BLM hoax. Straight up. And it was uncovered by a journalist, so we're going to get into that. Before I bring you all that, of course, you know I'm going to bring you to the store. This is the We the People shirt, our newest design, and we got t-shirts, hoodies, shirts, tank tops, men's tank tops, all that good stuff. And we also have the certified pure blood shirt. Somebody was like, I'm a white man, I can't wear a certified pure blood shirt. Let's listen here, sir. You can definitely wear this. Black, white, Asian, brown. This is for anybody who decided to stand up during the pandemic and be unwavering in their beliefs. Get your certificate of achievement with that shirt. And we also have what I'm wearing here, which is the Public Enemy #1 shirt. All of that's available on IamCoachColin.com. And if you would like 10% off, just put in the discount code IamCoachColin, all capital letters, all one word, 1L in the name Colin, gets you 10% off, no questions asked. And if you've done that with us already, thank you so much. Let's get into this clip.
The thing, right? Like most people would never communicate the way they communicate online in real life.
Yeah. And it's partly what Francis said, which is the potential for violence, right?
Yeah, it's real.
It's real.
It's real.
And it's maybe a guy thing, but we instinctively know that, right? There's a level. Bill Burr used to have this incredible bit of how he would behave if it was illegal to, or if you couldn't hit him, just walk up to a Jim Bro, snap a milkshake out of his hand. Yeah. So the face-to-face thing changes everything because most of the way we communicate is actually not in the words, right?
This is how we're designed, right?
Yeah.
We're designed to communicate in person. We're designed to take social cues, verbal cues, physical cues. Just as if you could sense energy in people.
Yeah.
You could sense that people are upset with you, even though their expression doesn't change. It's interesting.
It's really interesting, and we've also come to this point, Joe, which is really worrying to me, where people think that words are violence.
That's crazy, man.
And if you think that words are violence, and if you literally interpret it as that, then you having an argument with someone is you literally being physically assaulted. So if you feel like you're being physically assaulted, then you're going to up the ante and you're going to become more aggressive as a result.
You're justified to defend yourself.
Yeah. If you think that everyone is a Nazi, like a literal Nazi, like you feel justified in your actions, and a lot of them are convinced of that. It's like being in a cult.
But are they convinced though? This is what I wonder, Joe. It's like they keep using that word about everybody, right?
Yeah.
But if you actually thought democracy was over and the Nazis have taken over, wouldn't you pick up a gun and rise up and overthrow But they don't.
Pretty close to that. it seems like if you woke up one day and that broke out in Philadelphia, you wouldn't be stunned.
Yeah.
Right? And you're seeing what the looting and the craziness of Philadelphia is right now, right?
Yeah.
It's bonkers, man. This defunded police stuff is psychotic. Yeah. It's crazy to literally encourage crime. Because if you don't have incentives, if you don't have something in place to keep people from committing crime, and people that have already committed crime in their life, like multiple times, like many times, they're just going to do it whenever they want. And that's what you're seeing.
Yeah. Yes.
It's amazing how, and it's part of this sort of mindset that every human behavior is a product of the circumstances, but it's not. Some people will commit crime, right? And we have to also have a system that prevents that from happening. We have to have police. We have to have everything else, right? And decriminalizing crime is a bad idea.
It's a stupid idea. And it's just this idea that's born out of guilt, not logic.
Yeah.
It's born out of virtue signaling, not rational thinking. It's just not the way to do it. If you have bad cops, you're supposed to train them to be better. You should fund them better, treat them better, respect them more. And then they should have more of a relationship with the community. It should be a thing where they're trying to literally protect you, not constantly persecute people and fuck with people. And it's like that line is a very thin line. And then also, Who the fuck wants that job? Who the fuck wants to be yelled at all the time? Who wants to be the professional enemy? Who wants to be someone that it's okay to just shoot at? Who wants to be the person that everybody you interact with is lying to you?
Was there a time in your life, Joe, where the police were respected by most people?
There's always been problems. You know, there was Hunter S. Thompson wrote about the Chicago riots being one of the most horrific things that he ever saw in his life, the way cops were beating the people with clubs and shit. There's always been bad cops, just like there's always been bad plumbers.
Yeah.
There's just bad. Some people just suck.
Yeah.
They suck at what they do, and you know they come from a bad environment. They don't, they didn't have good role models. They grew up around assholes. They don't have any motivation. Maybe they're hooked on drugs, and they suck at what they do. And that could be anything. Anybody could suck at anything. Cops too. There's cops that are awesome human beings. I know a lot of cops that are great people. From jiu-jitsu, I've known so many cops because cops are constantly training. And generally, they're really nice guys with a fucking really hard job, but you don't hear about those.
Yeah.
You hear about the one that does some horrible thing. You see about the one who plants the gun on the guy after he shoots them. You see the one where people shoot people when they're reaching for their wallets. You see the crazy shit. You see people punching women in the face. You see crazy shit, right? But you don't see all the positive interactions, and you don't see what happens if you get rid of them. And that's what you're seeing with these smash and grabs. These are fucking bananas, man, because they're everywhere now. And people are seeing so many of them on the internet, and they're seeing that people are getting away with them, and it's encouraging them.
Yeah.
And this is what happened, Venezuela was always had a problem with lawlessness. But when Chavez came to power, after a few years, they said the cops weren't going to prosecute criminals, because prosecuting a crime is a sign of right-wing oppression. Right, where have you heard that before, right? And as a result of that, it became so completely and utterly lawless that the city became uninhabitable. It became the murder capital of the world and the kidnap capital of the world. Because there's always going to be a small subset of society who are criminals and who will then look to maximize their opportunities to make money.
Yeah, there's a couple arguments about this that make sense. When people say that they're a victim of their circumstance, and we have to appreciate that they were put into a horrible circumstance in life and they're just trying to get by. That's true too.
Yeah, sure.
So what we have to do that we're not doing is try to figure out how to stop that, how to make like a minimum quality of life for everybody, where no one's growing up in dire poverty. That if you could send how many trillions of dollars have we spent just on military budgets over the last few years? If they figured out a way to give contractors a lot of money to fix neighborhoods, like to completely clean them up, provide modern housing, take care of all figure out ways to set people up for work programs and give people jobs. Like if that was like financially viable, just like Halliburton had those contracts to rebuild Iraq after we blew it up. If they had something like that for inner cities where these guys could literally make money doing it, that could be one way to kind of re-engineer things. Because if they could just figure out how to do that, you'd have so much less crime.
You'd have a lot less crime, yeah.
You'd have a lot less crime if people had hope, if people had role models, if they had community centers, if they had really good education, and they had safe streets. Just that alone.
Yeah, it would reduce crime a lot, definitely.
It would take a long fucking time, though.
Yeah.
Because you got generation after generation of people who lived there, when you're talking about like really fucked up gang-ridden neighborhoods.
Yeah.
No one's done anything about those neighborhoods for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's generational. It's like built into the people that live there. They're accustomed to it.
Now, you know why that wouldn't work, what Joe just talked about? Because guess who suffers? The prison industry, all those people who are privately owning prisons and profiting, the towns that have prisons in them and get big, I don't want to say they get big incentives to actually have a prison in their town. Some prisons are prison towns. That's where people go to work. They're like the same way, like if there's a coal mine in someone's town, it's like everybody in their family's a miner. When there's mining. And when they have a prison in the town, guess what everybody does? Everybody goes and works at the prison. It's a good job, good pension, good benefits, all that stuff. So then that suffers. Guess what else suffers? The music industry. The music industry suffers terribly. And I've already made a video about this, of how the music industry and the prison industry are very linked. They're very much linked. One helps the other immensely. Just does. You put into enough young people's heads that drugs and crime is cool and brings about money, it pushes them right into the prison industry. They stay in the system. It's like a whole thing. So you couldn't just have it so they're making money by building up these neighborhoods. You'd have to restructure the way those two industries work, the prisons and the music industry. And that would be very, very hard. Now, when it comes to the whole thing of, incentivizing people, incentivizing the left, or the left incentivizing people to commit crimes with what they've done by defunding the police, tying the police's hands, making the police the enemy, that is, that's getting out of control. I'm going to show you this clip here. Let's move over here. Yeah, I already got it up. Perfect. So I'm just going to read this to you. This story keeps getting worse. Today, police arrested Brian Doling as a suspect in the attack on an activist, Ryan Carson. Brian is only 18. He's had trouble before with assault and attacking his girlfriend, not put in jail. His own aunt told the police he's mentally unstable, didn't keep him in jail, even though after multiple police calls, he was still allowed to remain free and works at a school with children. Unfortunately, this is only the beginning in the disgusting saga. Ryan Carson, the victim, is having his legacy absolutely destroyed by those around him. His girlfriend refused to give a police report, a proper description of the attacker, because she didn't want a stereotype. Wow. His friends are running GoFundMe pages to take time off work and grief. The woke is the absolute worst mind virus ever witnessed in society. And this is the young man moments before he stabbed Ryan Carson to death. Moments before. Now, keep in mind, he was told by the guy's family that he's mentally unstable. Multiple calls, still allowed to be free, still allowed to work with kids. And that resulted in this gentleman here, Ryan Carson, passing away. Ryan Carson, activist, would feel sorry for the violent teenager who stabbed him to death, blah, blah, blah. Victim of a broken system, friends say. Absolutely wild. This is a person who actually believed in defunding the police. His girlfriend, I won't show you the picture, but she's a confirmed Marxist. They actually made their license plate K Marx. If you don't know Marxism, look into it. It's terrible. It goes hand in hand with communism. So this is what these people believed. These are some of the people who are very left-leaning who decided, you know what, let's keep these people on the streets. Let's not give proper descriptions because that might be stereotyping. Virtue signaling until a fatal moment, to a fatal moment. You know, I can't show you the actual video. There is a video of the attack, but it is of the gentleman, passing away and being attacked. So, yeah, it's very sad. Very, very sad. But that's what happens. The police, in their mind, are the enemy. Let's defund them. Let's not even call them. We can handle this. This gentleman's he just needs a little bit of help. And the next thing you know, you're getting stabbed to death. Absolutely terrible. Now, another one. Here's another one, right? Breaking news. And this again goes to incentivizing people. There's an incentive here for this gentleman to tell this story about a young man whose mugshot is absolutely wild. He's irrecognizable. 3 Florida cops beat him severely, kicking him, smashing his face into the pavement. Brutal arrest for not wearing a seatbelt. Not wearing a seatbelt. That's what it was for, right? That's the mugshot. Very irrecognizable. Community Notes steps in. This was not a traffic stop, right? The guy was armed. This, that, blah, blah, blah. A journalist actually uncovered this before Community Notes even stepped in. Another BLM hoax. This time it's Sir Major Page, who's charged with federal wire fraud and money laundering over a $200,000 BLM scheme. Woods was not investigated for a seatbelt violation. He's a suspect of trafficking, among other crimes. Police body cam footage shows a black officer was one of the people involved in catching him. Woods fled on foot when he was tased, falling into the ground and smashing his face. And I can actually attest to that. I've actually seen the video. And this guy's just making it up, but he's incentivized to make it up. And it goes right along with what Joe was saying. Imagine that you're just the professional enemy. Imagine you're just the enemy all the time, to the point where people are making up stories about you and your crew of people that are trying to arrest somebody. You're black and you're an officer and you're involved. They push you aside. There's some white officers. They demonize them. I've seen the video. The gentleman was actually running away from the cops. The cop told him 3 times, I believe, I'm going to tase you. I'm going to tase you. I'm going to tase you. Tased him, fell on the ground, face planted, smashed his face. They took him in. He's known to be armed. He's known to be dangerous. He's had a criminal past before, so they make sure to not coddle him in the slightest. They arrest him, and they're made out to be demons by random people. Again, guys like this, who made this story up, they're incentivized to do this. This goes along with the narrative of defunding the police. This goes along with the narrative of basically covering for a guy who ran from the police, covering for a guy who's a trafficker. Again, Joe Rogan brought it up. It's the virtue signaling to a destructive extent. You're virtue signaling to the extent where you're trying to cover for someone who's a trafficker, who's a violent offender. You're virtue signaling to an extent where you're laying on the ground, stabbed, bleeding out, because you didn't want to approach this young black man who's seeming unstable. You didn't want to approach him with caution. And then your girlfriend doesn't want to give a proper description because she doesn't want to be seen as some distraught white woman blaming a black person for a crime. It gets out of control. It gets out of control. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think in the comments about this whole thing, about what Joe was saying, about what the gentleman from Trigonometry were saying, about these 2 stories. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you haven't liked the video already, like the video. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure to subscribe. Hit the notification bell because it gets hard to keep up. We make a lot of videos around here. Other than that, I'm out.